Judge who at one time ran for Tulsa County District Attorney is on his way back to Oklahoma tonight. Ned Turnbull plans to speak at a clemency hearing Wednesday for one of the men sent to death row for the brutal murder of a Quick Trip employee. Turnbull plans to ask the panel for mercy for Bill Alverson. News on 6 crime reporter Lori Fulbright has the story new at 6. Lori?
Well, Terry, it's very unusual for a judge who presided over the trial of a suspect to later speak on behalf of that suspect. Turnbull tells me he supports the death penalty, but he doesn't believe Billy Alverson deserved it in this case. Well, the victim's widow totally disagrees.
February 26, 1995 was the last day of Richard Yost's life. He was only 30 years old, was married, and had 2 small boys. Richard promised his 2-year-old he'd bring him a candy bar after work that night. He promised both sons he would always be there for them. Richard wasn't able to keep those promises, though, because 4 men came into the Quick Trip where Richard worked to rob it. Richard was outnumbered, and they had a baseball bat. They beat him relentlessly until there was nothing left but broken bones and a trail of blood. Police caught the 4 men. Michael Wilson remains on death row. Darwin Brown was executed in 2009. Richard Harjo got life without parole, and Billy Alverson is scheduled to be executed in January. His clemency hearing on Wednesday is a last chance to avoid the needle. Richard's wife, Angela, will be there, pleading with the Pardon and Parole Board to leave his sentence alone. Angela says people can't imagine how Richard's suffering before he died and his death have affected her and their boys. In a letter she's going to read to the board, she writes, "How do you explain that your dad was killed because money was more important than your father's life?" She says Billy Alverson gave Richard a death sentence and gave us a life sentence without him.
I covered this case back in '95, and I remember listening to the surveillance tape at that trial. You couldn't see the attack because it happened in a storage room, but you could hear it, the pinging of that baseball bat as they beat Richard and him screaming for help. Angela says that image is etched in her brain forever, and the case never ends for her, with endless appeals and clemency hearings to attend. She's not very happy that Judge Turnbull supports clemency for Alverson. Turnbull didn't want to tell us why he believes Alverson didn't deserve the death penalty in this case. He said he would rather speak to the panel on Wednesday first. He now works for an investment firm in Houston. Alverson's attorneys say Alverson is remorseful, but the victim's widow doesn't believe that. We'll let you know what happens at Wednesday's hearing. Lori Fulbright, News on 6.